Okay, estudiantes, for today we are going to take notes on affirmative to commands. So remember that you use commands to tell someone to do something. In English, there's only one command form, but in Spanish, there are formal commands and familiar commands. And you already learned the formal commands with the usted and ustedes commands in the previous chapters. Today, we're going to look at familiar commands. So you use affirmative to commands to tell someone you know well to do something. So you would use these with friends or family members. Okay, so for the regular present tense, you go to the el, ella, usted form of the verb. So, for example, escribir is an IR verb. So we would say escribe for the command to write. So you tell somebody write. Filmar, to film. So if you said film this, you'd say filma, and then ver would be they. So notice that if it's an AR verb, we're using the a ending. So if it's ella, usted, we use a. If it's an ER or IR verb, we use a. So I just wrote out these two endings here just for you to remember. These are the only two endings we need to worry about when we are using those ella, usted endings. The rules for pronouns, the pronoun placement also apply to affirmative to commands where we attach the pronoun to the command. So remember back in the previous chapters when we talked about usted and ustedes commands, and we put the pronoun at the end. The same thing happens with affirmative to commands. If you want to use a pronoun with it, it has to attach directly to that command. And then remember, when you attach pronouns to verbs with two or more syllables, you do need to add an accent to show stress. So remember, we just count 3 vowels from the end. In this example here, uno, dos, tres, and there's our accent mark. Okay, so here's a little bit of practice. So it says añadir. So we want to say add the potatoes, the onion, and the salt and pepper. So añadir is an IR verb. So we are going to use the IR endings. So we have añade. Freír is an IR verb. So we need to use our correct IR ending. So we have frier. Batir is also an IR verb. So we have bate. And then mezclar is an AR verb. So we would use mezcla. And cocinar is an AR verb, cocina. So mix everything and cook the tortilla, cook it for 10 more minutes. So notice if it's an IR verb, we have these here. We use that ending. And then if it's an AR verb, we need to use that ending. So pretty simple with just recognizing those two endings. However, when we are going to use our affirmative to commands, for the most part, if you are looking at your verbs, you can pretty much conjugate any verb using that el, ella, usted ending. However, there are some irregular verbs we need to recognize that have their own separate spelling. So we just kind of have to memorize them. Hacer would be as. Ir is they. And ser is say. And there is an accent mark here. And then you see this chart here. It says some irregular to verbs are based on the present tense yo form. So from these verbs, we drop the go from the ending. So if you just think of the present tense yo form, remember these are irregular. We have digo, pongo, algo, tengo, and vengo. So these are my yo forms in the present tense. To form the command form, it says in our directions here just to drop the go. So it'd be di, pon, al, ten, and ven. So you can kind of recognize the majority of these we follow that pattern, whereas these three just kind of have their own that we need to memorize. And if you look at slide 17, you'll see there's kind of a chant that we will go through to remember these irregulars. It's just basically reading these through. It goes di asve, pon sal se, ten, then. So if you look at slide 17, you'll be able to kind of go through that chant. So di asve, pon sal se, ten, then. Okay, here's a couple more practice sentences. So we want to say, tell what time it is. So decir qué hora es, how we would tell somebody, say what time it is. So we would tell them, di qué hora es. Another one, poner un mano en el escritorio. So put a hand on the desk. So we'd use pon. Next one, hacer el papel. Remember, that's our vocab word to play a role. So we have haz el papel de un profesor. Tener prisa would be ten prisa. And then ser cómico, be funny. So let's say you tell your friend, be funny. You say cómico. So really, when we're focusing on these verbs, we just need to make sure we pay attention to that el, ella, usted ending, and then recognize that these 8 irregulars we just have to memorize and know, and we're just instructing one person, telling them what to do, and these are people that you know really well, friends or family members.